Hi, everyone. My name is Marvin, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Phala. We are founded in 2020, and our main product is DStack, open source framework that enable anyone to use Docker to run their own confidential compute infrastructure. So, and we also have Phala Cloud, cloud infrastructure on top of DStack. So, you can run CPU or GPU or private inference on top of it. Most of our use cases are cryptographic, AI agents, AI models, confidential AI endpoint. So this is our main business. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Marvin. Anand.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anand Kashyap. I'm co-founder and CEO of Fortanix. Fortanix has been around for 10 years. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. And
congratulations.
Thank you. We've been doing confidential computing for a long time, even before it was called confidential computing. I remember the time when we used to go to VCs trying to raise money and describe the technology, saying, hey, people secure data at rest, data in motion, we secure data in use. Later on, the term confidential computing was adopted or coined, and we adopted it as well. So we have been building technology, solutions, products on top of confidential computing for a long time. Our flagship product is what we call Data Security Manager. It's a key management, enterprise key management product, as well as a hardware security module. And in the last couple of years, we have been collaborating with NVIDIA and the broader technology partnership to build a confidential AI solution, which we have taken to the market. And securing proprietary models, bringing them on-prem, that has been a big use case for us.
Awesome.
Great. Erica.
Yeah, I'm Erica Brescia. As you mentioned, I'm a managing director at Redpoint Ventures. We've been around for about 27 years now. We have $7 billion under management, invest from the earliest stages through about Series D. Like in the early days in companies like Snowflake and Stripe and Twilio and HashiCorp, more recently in companies like Mistral and Anthropic and OpenAI and Modal and Railway. And I spend most of my time on the infrastructure side on the early stage, so inception through Series A. I'm also on the board of the Linux Foundation. I've served as one of the 3 independent directors for a decade now. So it's been a really fun journey to see how much things have evolved and new organizations like confidential computing have popped up. Before this, I was COO of GitHub. So I do have operating experience. I was there through shipping Copilot. So I know it's fallen from grace a bit, but it was fun to be a part of that. And before that, I founded a couple of companies.
Great. So, Erica, I'm going to start off with a question for you. It's actually a two-parter.
It better be an easy one. You gave me zero prep for this.
Explain how keys are managed in the...
Oh, dear God.
So,
Managed very well.
5 years from now, where does the durable value accrue? The model labs, the infrastructure layer, the builders on top, all 3? And then here's the second part, and you can pick how to answer this, because I'm going to cram 2 in here.
All right.
Where are you writing checks today, and where are you not going to write checks?
Okay.
So they're related. It's not like completely...
And I have 30 seconds to answer.
No, you've got time. Take your time.
Okay. Look, I don't think anyone really knows exactly what the world looks like in 5 years. There are a couple things that I strongly believe to be true. Like the frontier labs are not going anywhere. Like they are here to stay. I think of them like cloud vendors. This is not a new mental model, but it has served me really well through investing. And I remember in the early days of AWS, because we're old enough to have seen that whole movie, like everybody's like, oh, the cloud's going to be commoditized. Well, yeah, commoditized into massive businesses. And I would have loved to put a check into the Series A of AWS or, Google or Azure if I could have. So I think they're here to stay. A big part of our thesis is that enterprises are going to be running a lot of their own models, their own like SLMs, and open source is, as always, going to win in the long run, or at least take a huge part of the market. And so this answers both questions. Like, I think there's a lot of opportunity to be captured, and we have been actively investing and looking to write checks in any companies that are enabling enterprises to run their own models, whether that's in a VPC or on their own hardware, which we're seeing more and more folks doing. It is really hard to build at the application layer today. We do have some investments like Serval and ITSM that we're super excited about, and we continue to look for like really big categories with incumbents who might be structurally challenged, where we think there's a real opportunity for someone to come in without all of the technical and organizational debt, build fresh, and build something that is so ingrained in the way a company operates that it will be hard to rip out. But for those like app level investments, we're really looking at like, once somebody implements this solution, is it going to get better for them over time? And so as you might expect, we're also spending a lot of our time in like continuous learning, and some of the labs and other companies working around like, how do you help models like self-improve as they get deployed inside an organization? That's the thing that's going to allow the application vendors to actually like build, I think, defensible and durable businesses. So I know that was a bit of a cop-out. Like, I still think there are opportunities and value will accrue at every layer, because I think we're seeing one of the biggest technology transformations, or probably the most significant one of our lifetime. And there's value to be captured across the stack. And we're looking to write checks across all of it. But I will say, I think most VCs, and we just did a study of our peer firms, it was really interesting. Almost everybody that has been focused on investing in apps is doing a lot of frontier tech. So they're looking at chips, they're looking at space, they're looking at power, they're looking at robotics, because we see that as like the next area of opportunity, where the app layer is, at least for now, getting a little bit more thinned out.
You crushed that.
Oh, thanks. Thanks.
So you didn't answer one part of it, though.
Yeah, where am I not
Where are
writing
you not
checks?
writing checks? You're like, I'm not going to do that.
Oh,
I know you guys have had this conversation at Redpoint. You're like, yeah, we're not touching that.
yeah, but to be honest with you, most of the time that we're not touching stuff, it's not because it's not interesting. It's because we don't think we're best suited to win, or the market's really tough. Like, I think like medicine for us all, I'm so excited about the next 5 years. I think healthcare and longevity, I'm a total longevity nerd, is going to be completely transformed. I think we're going to cure a lot of major diseases in the next 10 years. But there's also companies like Isomorphic that have already been funded, that have piles of capital where it's hard to invest. The other thing is space. Like, I actually spent a bunch of time looking at a data centers in space company. I think it's super cool. I do believe we're going to run data centers in space, probably below the ocean first and in some other more sensible places. But yeah, don't you love having VCs on a panel with all these crazy ideas? But
Yeah,
like,
we do.
I don't want to compete with Elon. Like, regardless of what you say, I think what he's done with SpaceX is incredible. And like, trying to fund a company that is dependent on SpaceX to be shipped into space to build data centers to compete with Elon, like, that seems like a tough proposition. Somebody might pull it off. We are investors in K2 on the satellite side. But yeah, it's categories like that. It's like, there's so many things that as long as you're building like really interesting technology, there's probably an opportunity to capture some value. It's just not always for us.
Okay, great. That was a great answer. All right, I've got one for both of you. Okay, and I might have this wrong, Marvin, but I think it's accurate. So trust has to be rooted somewhere. Marvin, I think you root it in decentralized networks, right? And Anand, in enterprise hardware platforms, you're rooting it in the hardware, right? One of you is more correct than the other one. So why don't you guys individually make the case for decentralized networks, for hardware root of trust?
He's the outsider.
I don't know who wrote this question,
He
but
should
I
go
think
first.
it's awesome. It might have been my personal agent who wrote this one. It's a great question. Sorry, do you want to go first, Marvin?
Yeah, I'm going to start. So our clients are decentralized, purposed, and not our service or platform. We serve them to reach out their goal, for decentralization. So I think there's two kind of key value out there. First is like the model accessibility. There's a lot of things happened between borders or countries for model operation, and I think open source model is one thing that everyone are expecting from the decentralization. world. And there's a one very interesting case. Just imagine, right? Just out of the box. Imagine, okay, you create a system that anyone can contribute their GPUs to that system, and there's a consensus among the society to how to utilize these GPUs. For example, let's train a model, or let's provide an inference service on top of these decentralized GPUs. But problem is you don't want to send prompt or your model weights to any dude's server or GPU in their home. And in that perspective, how to measurement the contribution and how to keep things in secret is a key friction for that world. So many of our clients working on that, and that's the reason why they pick up confidential compute as a key technology to enable their work. But back to the topic. So I personally think like decentralized AI won't stand for the current stage because if it failed to provide, let's say, a high token throughput performed model, or it failed to be able to orchestrate these GPUs as strong as B300 or NVL72, then if the performance is bad, then it doesn't make sense. So how to have that system in the middle, providing a very good, stable, high-performed, inference service is the bottleneck for now.
So you believe hardware is better than decentralized?
I think
I believe that we have to
case.
solve some issues first,
Yeah.
and after that, there's another world out there.
Well, are there use cases in which it makes sense where performance isn't a bottleneck around distributed AI workloads?
For example, like GPUs pricing are different, in different world. For example, like there's many San Francisco, YC startup, they raise a couple $1 million and they buy a lot of GPUs for their in-house using. And after that, the idle rate is probably 50%. So there's a 50% of GPU resources are wasted out there. There's a San Francisco computer, there's Redpoint, there's a lot of platform you can contribute your computer in to utilize the idle GPUs. I think that's the where it begins to make sense. It's not about like purchasing for the highest performance. It's more like use the idle GPUs for
I think actually, if I can jump in for one
of
second,
course.
we did an investment in a company called Sail Research that they're tapping into all of these idle GPUs and letting people run their workloads on them. But the use case, to your question, it's all for long running like background agents. That's something that us and a lot of other firms are spending a lot of time in as we move into this like agent first world, and companies go from like people just interacting and giving agents like real-time instructions to, hey, there's like almost like agentic cron jobs that are running and agents are just going about doing their business. And when they're running in the background, then the performance is less of an issue because it's just like happening behind the scenes and you don't really care about latency and things like that. So I suspect we'll see a lot more of that in the coming years.
I think that's what Chris Ray, when they started together, was intended to do, was to take the unused capacity across people's private or public clouds and then repurpose it for workloads. And then they pivoted to the Neo cloud, which has gone vertical.
Yeah.
Anand, so back to the original question.
Yeah, I think, look, there are a lot of different types of privacy enhancing technologies. And in the past, confidential computing has been compared to a lot of them, right? Multi-party compute or fully homomorphic encryption. I've not seen the comparison with DLT that much, but it's obviously there. And all of these technologies, essentially what they have is the fundamental building blocks are, there's some math and there's the systems and protocols and algorithms and how things work. And part of the systems can be implemented in hardware. And everything is a combination of both math and systems. Even DLT, if you're using a consensus protocol like proof of stake, how do you manage your encryption keys or your digital signing keys over there? How do you protect that? When you run your smart contracts, how do you make sure that that runs in a secure environment and how is that protected, right? Hardware and using hardware as a root of trust, that is a more complete solution in my mind. It is more performant. So using that as the basis for building trust going up is more practical in today's world. The math still has not figured out how to make FHE, a fully homomorphic encryption fast, or DLTs fast. There are performance bottlenecks for all of that. But with hardware, you get native performance or near native performance. The performance is much better. And then if you can trust the supply chain, then you can get much higher levels of security with practicality. But that's not complete. You still need to build out guardrails and other forms of protection. Maybe if you're generating some encryption keys, how do you make sure that you require a quorum to make sure people authorize? So you want to put in a human element there as well. And security is always a collection of things. It's not one single thing. So you can have a hardware root of trust, but you have to build more scaffolding around it to make it even more secure. And that's how we have been building our products.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We have 3 really world-renowned experts on stage. You've got Marvin, who's doing confidential from both confidential compute as well as decentralized network. You've got one of the OGs of confidential with Anand, who's been pioneering the category for 10 years around confidential. And then you've got Erica, tier 1 VC, rich history both in operating her own businesses, CEO GitHub, and has been on the forefront at a tier 1 VC doing investments. I'm going to open it up to the audience. There's 2 mics in the audience out there. I want to get your questions for our esteemed panelists. And as a reward, everybody who asks a question will win a prize. It could be a confidential agent case. It could be one of the other prizes, which I'm not sure what they are. I'm just excited about the flipper. So who wants to take the first question? Great, come on up. Were you the one talking in the back? Are you redeeming yourself now? You have redeemed yourself.
Here's okay?
Yeah.
What's that? Yeah.
Should I? Yeah, no. I have a question for Erica. You said the big labs are here to stay. And on the other hand, you said you really believe that small models are gonna, in enterprises, are gonna be the next big thing. How does two claims work together?
Yeah, it's a totally fair question. Look, I think we're going to use different models for different use cases. And so I think in the enterprise for very specific workloads, like it makes sense to take an off-the-shelf open source model, use existing fine-tuning tools or other systems around it to get the value that you need at a much lower cost and latency. And then for other really intensive tasks, you'll use the foundation model, or the frontier models, which will continue to get better. And like there'll probably always be some lag with open source, but I think open source models, even if the lag is 3 to 6 months at any given point in time, are already so incredibly powerful that we'll be able to get a bunch of value out of it. I heard somebody describe it the other day as like, you don't need to drive a Ferrari to the grocery store to buy some milk. And like, that's kind of a good analogy, right? For certain types of things that maybe open source isn't able to deliver yet, you'll use frontier models. And for everything else, you'll use open source. I think it'll always be a mix.
If I can add to that, maybe just like a couple of other places where we are seeing more open weight models being used or different types of models being used. Dr. Najwa talked about sovereign AI. So a lot of sovereign models are being built as well. Domain-specific models, as Erica was talking about. Yeah. And then cost is becoming a big factor. The cost of tokens is going through the roof, and people are using all kinds of models to reduce that cost.
But building on this example, Toyota is valued much more than Ferrari. So like, still, if you see Anthropic as the next AWS, let's say, how do what's your view on the other companies, the Toyotas of the world, the neoclouds that are going to host the models?
I think, I'm not sure I totally understand the question, but I'll try to answer and tell me if I got it wrong. Like, look, I think Anthropic could be a multi-trillion-dollar company one day, and that doesn't mean that there won't be a bunch of other $50 billion companies along the way. And if I have a $650 million fund doing the VC math, like if I get a 50, I'd rather be, Series A in Anthropic, but being the Series A in a company that hits 25, 50 billion is also great. And there's plenty of opportunities for that outside of the frontier models.
Okay, yeah. Maybe just to finish the question, I don't want to take too much time, but my point is if you look at Anthropic as the provider of the, let's say, the best models, and not the infrastructure itself. So sounds like CoreWeave, Nebius, the neoclouds, who are providing the infrastructure, are going to be much, much bigger. So just your opinion on that.
That's a really good question. And we have some investments in this space as well. I'm on the board of a company building its own data centers to poolside that's released some really cool open weight models that you should check out. I don't know that they'll be bigger because I think that's going to be a bit more fragmented than the model. There's only going to be so many labs that are like a very significant scale. Maybe it's 3, maybe it's 4. You know, it's tough to know exactly how that'll net out. I just think with the neo clouds, there's so many of them, and they're largely fairly undifferentiated that I don't know that there'll be one that actually wins the day. I mean, there's still companies like constantly raising funds for new data center businesses all the time, new neo clouds, and I don't think that will stop because there's so much money to be made, but it's not at the same scale.
And that's Alpha Compute's business, by the way, is one of the sponsors, is building out the infrastructure for the data centers.
Oh, awesome.
Where's my prize?
Good place to be. Flipper 0. Is that what he's getting?
What's that?
Did you say someone's getting a flipper?
Yeah.
Those things are...
It's got all the peripherals for it, too.
Oh, dope.
Yeah. Who's up next for questions? Great.
Hi, my name's Derek.
Hi, Derek.
I have a question for all of you, but I'll start with Anand. I view things through a concatenation of technology, policy, business, and people, and they always impact each other. Privacy has a cultural understanding, but a universal value. What combination or steps do you see as businesses and how they communicate and the language they use, as well as policies that could lead us to a better, less dystopian future?
Yeah, so the question is about the interplay between the policy being set by regulators and how are businesses responding to those policies?
Or influencing the lack of policy.
Or influencing the lack of policy.
So a lot of the problems are for a lack of policy, not bad policy necessarily. So, businesses participate in the success of cultural changes as well. So the move towards, by default, Microsoft infrastructure will be confidential. This is a great hopeful move that we heard about today. So as an example.
So when we started Fortanix, that was a time when the GDPR had just come out in Europe. And I think that kind of set the benchmark for how privacy policies should look like at a big scale, right? And a lot of other countries have adopted GDPR-like policies, and some of the things that are in there, like right to be forgotten, the data residency requirements, sovereignty requirements, have been adopted in various parts of the world as well. Some people hate GDPRs. A lot of large internet companies don't like GDPR as well, because now they have to build fragmented infrastructure in various parts of the world. But it's here to stay. And what we have seen over the last 10 years is that different forms of GDPR, the EU AI Act, some of the regulations in the US as well, they've continued to change the way people have been thinking about data sovereignty, security, privacy as well. And enterprises, large enterprises, we work with a lot of banks, we work with healthcare providers, we work with governments. They've all been responding to that. There are two things that are important when responding and even influencing these policies. One is on the technology side, other is the policy and the influencing that part of it as well. We are focused more on the technology side and looking for technological solutions to these problems. And thus we're focusing on technologies like confidential computing, providing the basic layer on top of which you can build use cases and applications that allow data to be processed, AI to be run, applications to be run, different parties who don't trust each other to be able to come together and collaborate with each other in privacy. That has been the technological layer that we have been providing and trying to address the policy and the basic issues around privacy and human rights that people have been trying to build around.
There's, if I may.
Sure.
Oh, please.
I'm going to use the last minute. Sorry. So, to my perspective, I think there's two type of privacy preserving business out there. The first type of business is policy driven. Let's say because of GDPR, CCPA, HIPAA. So like the companies, the enterprise, they have to purchase certain type of technology or service to make them compliant. And I think a lot of startups and companies sitting out there doing that type of business. And what I'm personally more interested is the second type. Like check out iPhone, right? Apple, WhatsApp, Telegram, Signal, Proton Mails, VPNs. These products sell itself. There's no policy behind it, right? To drive the demand. It's just a better word, and people want to use the privacy preserving product when the product performs really, really good. So yeah, I think like there's many ideas and opportunities out there, even in the AI world, to be unlocked after privacy enabled. So I think this is the second type of business. So